That's a life of a fisherman you wouldn't understand. Something you can't feel on dry land. Gotta get your arms way up in a cage and set the hook on a smallmouth bass, and then you'll understand. Gotta get your hands on a Shimano reel and a G-Loom that's right. I bet you like what you feel. Step on the deck, give it a whirl. Hello, welcome to my world.
What's going on, all you Facebook Live and YouTube Live fishing freaks? What's going on, everybody? Really quick, first and foremost, this episode brought to you by Hannah Sublett, insurance broker, protecting your health, securing your future. Give her a call at 740-456-7944. Health and life insurance in Ohio, West Virginia, and Kentucky. She can sell a lot of different brands, find you the best deal for what you're looking for. So definitely go out there and check that out. Again, Hannah Sublett is a very good friend of mine, and she has sponsored me for the season, which basically sponsored the trip, which you guys are seeing come out on YouTube very little by little. Today was 10 Killer. Actually, it was yesterday. We released the second day of the trip, which was Lake 10 Killer. Awesome time. Awesome lake. I will definitely go back. Man, we had an absolute blast. I'm sure you guys watched that video. If you did not, you can check that out and check out the video or what we done. How we done there was really good. I would recommend, as I mentioned last week, staying somewhere other than Snake Creek Campground. It's an awesome campground, super nice, super clean, but their water situation in the showers leaves a little bit to be desired. It was extremely hot. When I say extremely hot, I mean it was probably, I don't know how much. I'm guessing 170 plus degrees. It was super hot. Like it would scald you if you stood under it. But anyway, really quick before we get started, got some great news. Great news is that the Zoom Verno, which is the hottest jerkbait on the planet right now, is back in stock at Border Sporting Goods. And not only is it back in stock, my favorite collars are in stock. Matte Pro Blue, Macchiato, OZ Shad, and there is another one there, but those are the matte collars. However, I will tell you, Macchiato and Matte Pro Blue are my favorite. I will tell you that the Macchiato is very hard to come by. Macchiato is so hard to come by that Border's only got like 4 of them in this latest shipment. So if you want a Macchiato Zoom Verno 95 SP, you should definitely get there tomorrow because they will sell out. After that, after the Macchiato, my favorite is going to be after that Matte Pro Blue. I caught a bass on one of them at Caney Creek the other day in 75-degree water temperature, which I didn't think was. I told Dusty we couldn't get bit on anything else, so I threw on a jerkbait. And I said, "This is stupid, dude! Throwing a jerkbait in 75-degree water temperature." And literally a cast later, I catch a fish in there. Oh, there's Ace. What's up, bud?
Tony, man, very nice to meet you down there. Missed the payout by 8 ounces. Yeah, that was some stacked field and casting for kids, but it was a blast. That is definitely, man, if you have not fished Douglas Lake before, that lake is beautiful. Definitely got a lot of debris still from Helene, but we had a great time down there. I think we ended up with a little shot like 10.2, me and my buddy Chris, and I think we finished like 65th. But if you look at it, it's like the difference between 65th and 135th, and I mean, it was unreal. Like the entire field was stacked between 12 and 8 pounds essentially, but it was a great time.
Tyler
Great
Williams
story.
in the house. What's up, my man? First and foremost, very loyal subscriber and friend of mine, Larry Slack, who's normally on here. I don't imagine he'll be on here today because it's his birthday. So happy birthday, Larry. I hope it's a good one. Hope you get out there and lean on one. If not, maybe you got something to eat. And had a good birthday. So again, I appreciate your support over the years. You've been a really good friend of mine and an awesome supporter of the show. So happy birthday to you, my man. Tony, I apologize I didn't get to meet you. So it sounds like you and JR got to meet up. I haven't really talked to him about it. But this past weekend was kind of crazy for everybody. JR and Tony and Tyler Williams and Brent. There's a lot of people went down and fished the casting for kids down in Douglas. I went the other direction. Everybody went to Tennessee. I went to Lake St. Clair. Right now, Lake St. Clair is on freaking fire. When I mean on fire, we didn't catch a ton. Numbers were not there. Weather was terrible. 20 to 30 mile an hour gusts out of the north. If you've ever been to Lake St. Clair, anything coming out of the north just absolutely rocked that lake. We were fishing in 3-footer, 2 to 3s all day, and then it started getting big for St. Clair. I mean, we were running back in 4s. It was pretty rough, but between now and June would be the time to get to Lake St. Clair if you can be there. They're going to be starting heating the bed soon. And what I mean soon, again, water temperature was 57 this past weekend. There's a lot of dead grass in the area, especially if you're in the Mile Roads area around the Veteran Memorial Tent. We caught a lot of fish there. I caught my second biggest smallmouth ever, which was 5 pounds, 14 ounces. If you're going up there, I suggest you stocking up on some swim baits. Well, I caught a lot of them on white. What's
Dude, this is going to make you sick. Right now, it is sustained 3 mile per hour wind with a gust of 4.
Yeah,
it's so it's so aggravating.
So we drove up there for at max 1.5 day fishing trip. I had to work until Friday, obviously. Got off work Friday, drove north to Kyle's house, who lives north of Dayton. Still about a 2.5 or 3 hour drive from his house. It's about 2.5 hours from his house to St. Clair. Drive up there super early. We get up 2 o'clock in the morning or 2:30 in the morning, get everything ready to rock and roll, and we drive up there, and it's 64 degrees when we leave his house at 2:30 in the morning in Dayton, Ohio, and drive 2.5 hours north, get to Lake St. Clair, and it is like 41 degrees, and the wind is absolutely gassing, and it's only like 5:30 in the morning. So we put in at Selfridge, fished our spots that shall not be named in the Anchor Bay area. It's one of the few spots that I will not give away in all of my spots from St. Clair. I feel like it's one of like lesser known spots of Lake St. Clair, but we fish all day and it starts getting real big. So we drop off the lake. We get off the lake about 5 o'clock, caught 20 fish, one of them being again a 514 on a swim bait. But the next morning we're like, yeah, we're going to fish till noon, 1 o'clock on Sunday, thinking the weather was going to like get a little bit better. And boy, were we wrong. Woke up on Sunday morning to go fishing and the weather had drastically changed for the worse. Instead of being 42 degrees when we got there, the weather was 37 degrees and it was sustained 25 mile an hour with gusts to 50. So it was 3 to 5 mile an hour winds or 3 to 5 foot waves on Lake St. Clair, and it was a small craft advisory. And we were trying to go out anyway. Stepped out of the truck, and it felt like it should have been snowing. It was absolutely frigid.
Yeah, that's the thing about up there. If it gets big, stay off the water. It's not worth it. I mean, that place is scary whenever storms come in. I remember one time when me and you were fishing there, we were down by the yacht club, Tyler, and a storm started blowing in, and it was just scary. It's one of those, especially in my aluminum boat, but it's got to be respected.
Yeah, no, so I was talking to a buddy of mine, Shane Rader, earlier today. He was asking me some information about St. Clair, which again, I don't care to give you any information about Lake St. Clair. I'll put you on some fish, tell you where to put in, where to stay. I've been up there for, I'm guessing this is like seems like it's been longer, but it really hasn't. I started going up in 2017. So 8 years now. I've been going up at least once a year. Stayed at some really sketchy spots, man. Like I can tell you where not to stay. The very first place I stayed was at a place right down. It's not. I mean, you're not really right downtown Detroit. You're like northeast of Detroit when you're at Lake St. Clair. You get into places like St. Clair Shores. It's one of the most affluent areas that you would ever meet. Matter of fact, if you guys have ever seen the movie Gran Torino, the end of the movie where that fella is driving the Gran Torino down that lake shore, that's actually St. Clair Shores and Lake St. Clair. But I've stayed at some really sketchy places. Baymont Inn was probably one of the most sketchy, and the worst I ever been to up there was a Red Roof Inn. And it was like I felt like I needed to take a shower before I got there, and 2 or 3 showers before I left. But there are some really nice places, especially if you talk about wanting to get up there and, one, not have your stuff stolen, and 2, not have to worry about like bed bugs and things, which is gross to think about. But I've stayed at some really sketchy places up there. You need to stay up towards Selfridge off of 94. There's a little area there. I think it's called Chesterfield. And there's several hotels there. I will tell you though, if it is, you have Selfridge Air National Guard base there that's really close to it. So if they have guard weekend, which they just had this past weekend, every one of those hotels fill up like to the brim. And the rooms that you can get are astronomically expensive. They're like $290 to $300 a night. But if you ever look at that and look for a hotel in the Chesterfield area and it is full like that, it's because there's a guard weekend, or there's probably a big giant BFL or something up there. But again, I could put you guys on some spots. My advice to you, if you want to go to Lake St. Clair for the first time, put in at the Crocker Boat Ramp, which is it's called the Clinton River Cutoff. It's like $40 a year to get a pass there. But you can use Harley Ensign, you can use Clinton River Cutoff, and 9 Mile when it's back open. Right now they're dredging and making it better. So 9 Mile, Crocker, Harley Ensign, and Selfridge. I think there's one more way around on Anchor Bay also that you can use. Now, I will tell you, one of the mistakes that I made several times was thinking that $40 pass would get you into the Metro Park ramp, and it will not. Metro Park is absolutely the most expensive ramp I've ever been to in my entire life. You pay $20 for your truck to get in there and $20 for your boat to put it in the boat ramp, which is crazy. $40 a day.
Stupid. Yeah, I was going to ask you if if 9 Mile was opened back up yet, but
no, 9 Mile is not. They just redid Crocker, but I don't know, man. Engineers, I am one, but it's just so weird about the folks that are engineers. They either over engineer stuff or don't engineer it well enough. They created a break wall at Crocker. It's just basically a straight out wall going out instead of like making it come out the side. Well, you have the Clinton River that comes out there, and the Clinton River runs right out in there and dumps a bunch of soot and silt, and it actually fills that boat ramp plumb full. So they just recently dredged that area, and it was closed for like 5 days, and they dredged it all out. And they claim they dredged it, and then me and Kyle come through there the other day on his Lowrance graph, and the deepest we saw coming through that entire ramp was 3 foot deep. And that was after they dredged it. So, Tony, I see you say Erie's on your bucket list. Erie's a great place, man. I love Lake Erie, but it is astronomically very large. And as much as I hate to say this, it pains me to say this, I would fish St. Clair 10 times before I would want to go to Lake Erie one time. I go to Lake Erie to catch walleye, and that's practically it. Lake Erie is giant, but I can go to Lake St. Clair pretty much any time of the year and go out less than a half mile off of the shore and catch fish that are anywhere from 2 to 5.5, 6 pounds. Whereas if you're trying to do that on Lake Erie, you're probably running out by the islands, and you're 15 miles offshore sometimes. And if it gets big, you're in some serious trouble. Erie is awesome. It's just really tough to find them. When you find them, again, you're 10 plus miles offshore, no matter where you put in. I would much rather go to Lake St. Clair, especially if you've never been to big water like that. And the fact of the matter is, guys, you can put in anywhere on Lake St. Clair, anywhere that you want. Especially if it's a weekend, just drive around till you find a pack of boats and fish inside those pack of boats, and you're going to catch some smallmouth.
And they're used to it. Those people up there, The locals they can be kind of jerks about it, but do you, do you like I was just looking up the places that I've stayed up here. Do you like that Chesterfield better than the Roseville? I think I've always stayed at Roseville.
100%. Chesterfield is night and day better than Roseville. We always stay at that
Just
Holiday
because
Inn, I think.
close to,
It's close. It's like 5 miles away.
yeah.
Roseville is down by 9 Mile, or a little bit
Yeah.
closer to 9 Mile.
Well,
But
I was thinking maybe we did that one because we were using 9 Mile so much, and now the Chesterfield one sounds good because you got to use Crocker.
no, Chesterfield is absolutely the nicest area in there. And I'm not scared of a lot of places, and I'm still not really scared of that area because I go
I'm
in
scared of
there
Detroit.
I go in there packing heat, baby. I'm packing like I got a 9 in one pocket and a freaking 45 on my hip. Like, homie, don't play that. But I've stayed at places, for example, the Baymont Inn and Suites, which is down. I think they call that Roseville too, but it's basically right off 94. But there is a Red Roof Inn right across 94 from that Baymont, and they're the cheapest places to stay. You can get a room for like $60 a night. But they were pretty sketchy, kind of skanky places. It felt like that it was a place that you could get your grafts and stuff stolen pretty fairly easily. That area there in Chesterfield is all brand new. All of those hotels are practically within 2 years old or 3 years old of being brand spanking new. It's where all the pros stayed. Jared, that's where you and I stayed the last time.
The last time, yeah.
Yeah.
There was more food close by too, I think.
Yes and no. I mean, there's some stuff there. There's a restaurant called the Twisted Rooster, which is decent. There's a B-Dubs few miles down the road. There's some stuff there. You are really close to the Selfridge boat ramp, which is a really good thing. You can use Selfridge if the wind's really ripping. It's coming out of the north. You can pretty much always fish the Anchor Bay area. Just depends. As much as it's weird to say this, but depending on where the wind is coming from, you can always find a place to get out of the wind on Lake St. Clair. Now, that may be Canadian water and may have to wait till June, obviously, when you can go over there and target those fish. But no matter where it's coming from, you can put it in a ramp on Lake St. Clair and get fishable water. It may not be as much, but you can definitely do so. But yeah, Chesterfield is where I would stay. Kyle and I stayed at a True by Hilton this past weekend. Really cool place. Expensive, again, because it was guard weekend. It cost us $232 for one night. But again, you get what you pay for. I would much rather pay a little bit more money and have peace of mind that I had a really nice place to stay. Most places there, which is weird because it's right on one of the greatest bass fisheries on the planet, they don't have hookups for your boat. Like, if I were a designer there, I'd be like, look, I'm going to put some power poles out here and we're going to set it up for boats. Because let's face it, there's boats there all the time. Matter of fact, the True that me and Kyle were staying at, I don't know if you guys saw it. I think it was last year when the pros were there. Jordan Lee got kicked out of that hotel. They made him leave because he had his motor of his boat sticking over the wall or the sidewalk, and they didn't say don't pass go, don't collect $200. They just said you're not welcome here no more. You got to find someplace else to stay.
We met Scott Suggs there, Tyler. Super, super nice guy.
Yeah, so that was at the Holiday Inn. So what's the one? So the reason we stayed there, JR, if you remember, is that I sent you the hotel. And there are 2 hotels in that area, and you chose the wrong one. That's why we stayed in Chesterfield. We were going to stay at that. What is it? It's not
Hampton.
What's that? Yeah, it's the Hampton Inn, Detroit Roseville. But we stayed at the Hampton Inn there in Chesterfield, which was better anyway. But stay up there. You're going to enjoy your stay a lot more. There's been times where I have woken up every hour on the hour to check on my boat. You are in Detroit, right? I mean, it's not like you're outside of Detroit, depending on where you're at. The best thing to do is look up towards Chesterfield for a hotel. There's also some Airbnbs. Matter of fact, there is an Airbnb over on Anchor Bay, and I'll have to figure out the guy's name. He reached out to me a few years ago, wanted me to promote his stuff, which I didn't care to do. But he has an Airbnb over on Anchor Bay, and it was just too expensive for me and Kyle as a 2-person deal. It had a dock right on the water, so you could leave your boat in if you wanted to, if the wind was right. But we just never did because it was like $400 a night, but it would sleep like 15 people. So it wouldn't be too bad if you had a bunch of people there. We just don't ever do that. So it was there. But that's over in Anchor Bay, closer, like in between Selfridge and the St. Clair River.
Every time I hear that, I want to listen to David Bowie. Suffragette City.
Yeah. So anyway, guys, just really quick, if you guys missed the beginning of the show, the Zoom Verno is back in stock over at Border Sporting Goods, the hottest jerk bait on the planet right now. It catches them, fellas. I like the matte collars, and they just come back in stock. Macchiato's my favorite. There's only 4 of them available. There's a bunch of Matte Pro Blue, which is my second favorite, and then OZ Shad is going to be my third one, and they have them all in stock. Again, the Macchiato one's going to sell out probably tomorrow, but it is an awesome.
Is that the small one or the big one that they got?
The 95, the small one.
I like.
So the 95 is 95 millimeters in length. So it's a little bit smaller than a normal like 110. Obviously, 110 stands for 110 millimeters, so it's exactly 10 millimeters shorter. Works a lot. I throw it on 12-pound Sun FC Sniper. It claims on the box 3 to 4 feet in depth. I'm getting anywhere from 5 to 7 foot of that. So, what is up, Andy? Been diving into your channel, man. I'm digging it. Hoping to see you on the water soon. It's going to be a good year. I have a feeling. Weather's shaping up right. Should be seeing some spawning bass in our area. I'm sure there's some fish that are already hitting the nest soon. Next full moon is going to be like the 12th, so it's going to be like heating up here soon. Water temperature around this area is going to be in the 60s. I would say I haven't been out in a while. It's going to be good. First off, I'm not a purist. I will catch a fish on the bed every now and again, but it's just not my idea of a good time. I'm sure I feel this the same way as somebody that just absolutely is against forward-facing sonar. They're probably like, I'm not doing it. That's just not how I fish. Well, okay, I get it. But the great thing about this is that just because I don't like it, somebody else may, and that's okay too. But we were down at Lake Fork, and I actually released a bunch of videos today that will be shorts on my YouTube channel. I had my Stratus boat up in the freaking cabbage at Lake Fork. And when I mean up in the cabbage, I was up so far in this creek that I went until I couldn't go any farther just to see how shallow my boat would go. And under my trolling motor, it wouldn't even read. It would read 1 foot and then nothing. So I was probably in 1.5 feet of water and my boat was still floating, which is pretty amazing. But we were back in there and it was just an absolute bed fest. You could go to any spot and you look down and there would be 1 foot of water and there would be a bass on a bed. And for some reason, man, I'm going to have to throw them here to see if they don't like them here either. But I tell you what, I was pitching a black and blue Cinco, 5-inch Cinco on a 3/16-ounce tungsten Texas rig in those beds, dude. And they absolutely hated it. Like you'd pitch it in there and you would get bit 5 times out of 10. And if you guys know anything about bed fishing for largemouth, that's very good odds. Matter of fact, I have a video that I don't know if I will release or not, but it was just Dusty and I pulled over to get a lure unstuck from the bank. We had no clue that we were going to be bed fishing. We were just looking for fish. We were getting shallow. I was getting a lure unhung from the tree because I made a bad cast. I was 1 foot from the bank. And I looked directly down on the front of my boat, and there was a male about, 3 pounds sitting on a nest. Like directly, like my trolling motor was 6 inches from this fish's face. And I was like, there's no way this fish will eat. So I just threw that, I just pitched that little Texas rig Cinco in there, and I picked it up one time, and it absolutely smoked it. And I'm talking like I caught it off the front of my trolling motor, which was crazy to think about, that they'll be that territorial when something like a trolling motor that they know doesn't exist there, and that blade's been spinning because I had to get over there to get the bait, and I still caught that fish off the bait, which is crazy.
Yeah, sounds like smallmouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a lot. They get a lot more angry about it. But Old Man in the Sea. I recently met this fella. He actually kind of works with me in a way. But man, at Paintsville, we were catching them all on Texas rig creature baits. We were actually, me and Jared were using that new power bait, not the crud crawl, but the stank bug. Brad's got a fair amount of them up at Borders right now. And when the water gets really muddy, I've never really experienced this before this year, but I mean, I could throw a Cinco regular, or I could throw like a general with Maxent, and it would work so much better. I always thought that was a big deal with smallmouth, but man, with largemouth, I think it makes a big deal too. But Paintsville Lake, man, those guys, I feel like they're making a big difference. Jason Kenner and then of course Chris Ferguson and all the Casting for Kids guys promoting it, and I heard they got F1s approved there, so I am really excited and hope that really comes to fruition.
I've been talking to Kenner a lot lately. I haven't heard that they got it approved. I thought that they were working on it. They're putting their third $50,000 or 50,000 threadfin shad in there May. I think it's the 9th here soon, which I guess will be Thursday or Friday. But they're putting the third stocking of 50,000 threadfin in there. Now, this is a 3-year kind of like pilot program with Paintsville Lake, and they're doing it. And then after this, they're going to stop stocking with threadfin just to see, one, how sustainable they are for threadfin to be in a lake that once they get in there and they start spawning and they create this own habitat of themselves, can they survive harsh winters? Do the fish absolutely gorge on them? And so far, a lot of the stuff that's come out about that stuff is all true. They're obviously seeing larger fish being caught. Matter of fact, there was a fish this past weekend that it was weird to me to see the fish. It had a giant gut on it, don't get me wrong, but they weighed it in as an 8.5-pound fish. The fella had it apparently must have been like the giant. They claim this dude was a very large guy. But looking at that fish compared to the 8.5 that Dusty caught, they were two totally different fish. But 8.5-pound caught and weighed in a tournament, so there's no doubt about that. It's a no doubter. Just didn't look that big to me. I took some flack over telling them I didn't think it was 8.5 on their page, but a lot of people were sharing videos and stuff with me. But I guess it's just different times and how things are working out as far as what they're eating and things. The 8.5 that Dusty caught was post spawn, so it was a 10-pound fish on the spawn, easy, maybe 11 or 12. It was a giant fish, but it just looked weird to me. But there's 8.5 there. They're catching 20-pound bags regularly there. It's taken, it took 19 the other day for the Casting for Kids second day. So I think it makes a difference. Kenner he posts every day, and if you guys are not a part of his page, it's like Anglers for Improving Opportunities. I think it's what it's called. Join it up, even if you're not from this area. There's a lot of good information on there talking about Paintsville Lake and all the threadfin that they're putting in there. And he is trying to get F1s put in there. They're receiving a lot of flack, and the deal is that the DNR are saying that they don't want to taint the pure northern strain that supposedly is in the lake. However, I will tell you, places like Greenbow does not have pure northerners. There's no way you can have pure northerners there. I'd be interested to see a like a scientific study about taking samples of those fish and seeing the genetics of them. I think they've done that, and there was some that came back pure northern, and some of them were a hybrid. Now the hybrid is probably a Florida strain bass of some sort, southern style bass, because it's crazy to me how fish gets traveled around. Like for example, I was fishing a crankbait at the Robert C. Byrd Locks and Dam one time at a bass tournament, throwing a square bill, caught a fish, turns out to be a really nasty looking shovel head catfish, which they eat moving bait, especially in the river. It wasn't a big deal. I picked it up and it had a tag in it from the West Virginia DNR. Well, I am on the Ohio River, but I am fishing near West Virginia, obviously, at the Gallipolis Locks and Dam. So it the directions say to remove the tag, either keep the fish or release it, but keep the tag and then call the DNR. So I did the next day, or that was Saturday, so it was Monday when I called. They told me that based on the number of that fish tag, that fish was released in a pond in West Virginia, and it ended up in the Ohio River below the Robert C. Byrd Locks and Dam. So lots of things could have happened there. Like it could be as crazy as a bird tries to eat it and drops it in the river, or it floods and that gets washed out into a creek that then runs into the river. But it's crazy to see how things like that happen. So I don't think that all the fish we have here are true northerns, and I would love to see F1s being introduced, because look at all the money, and that's the biggest thing that Kenner has going for him, is look at the economic aspect, the impact that it can have of our area. Look at Chickamauga, look at Lake Fork, look at all these places that are true mega bass destinations, and look at all the money that gets injected into that, that economy based on bass fishing alone.
Yeah, it's they've got to realize who is paying their bills, and who is paying their bills is bass fishermen. It's not trout fishermen. It's not any other fisherman type. It is bass fishermen. I mean, I hear about people coming to Yatesville for that all the time. And you know what? People aren't coming as much as they used to, because they come there and they say it's tough. So I think the DNR, who, it's in their name pretty much that they are being supported by nature, and nature is supported by us. And as we advocate for them, we're going to get more movement, which I think that Chris told me they had the vote, whichever that means, if it is finalized or if they have to do something else as far as to get the F1s in there. But I mean, 3 years of stocking like that, it's certainly going to help for the bait. I mean, that fishery, I think, is very healthy. I definitely plan on fishing it again. Tyler, man, I am really excited about the Classic. I need to learn a lot more about Chickamauga. I've only fished it once. I think I've been on it 2 days. That is, I mean, obviously MLF was just there. They were putting up huge numbers. If you guys were watching that, it was really cool. It was like down to the wire with Wheeler and I forget the other fellow's name.
Yeah, some fella I've never even heard of.
Yeah, and he ended up beating him on a buzz bait with, I mean, I'm talking 10 seconds or less. It was really cool. I saw it after the fact, but
yeah, and Jacob Wheeler had one on too, but he couldn't get it in before the time. But it's pretty cool.
It's wild, man.
Larry Slack in the house. Happy birthday, buddy. We gave you a shout out for your birthday earlier. I don't think you were on here, but here's your shout out. Happy birthday, man. Hope it all works out for you and you had a great day.
Happy birthday.
That's right. Yum Cincos, the old Yum Dinger, man. I tell you what, for the money, you can't beat them. I love Yamamotos, but Yum Dingers. Matter of fact, I didn't know that Borders sold them, but Borders has the bulk pack of a lot of different things. Like they have the Yamamoto bulk packs, which I think are a little bit more expensive. I think they're like $30 for 50 of them. Or you can get the Yum Dingers I think there are 30 of them for like $19. 5-inch.
So Rob says, trying to switch over from mono to braid. Question is, when I set the hook with braid, can you rip it, or do I need to ease it into a hook set? Depends on what you're fishing, man.
Yeah. So what I would suggest if you're going to go directly from mono to braid, totally different. It's totally different fishing. One, I personally have never ripped the fit. Like, I've seen people like rip fish's face off, like rip their lips off, literally rip their lips off. I don't know how you do that, because I get so much crap on my YouTube channel for being a slacklining, I mean, absolute dog pounding, freaking set the hook like you got to set and let them know that you've set the hook on them. And I've yet to do anything like that. Now, if you're talking about braid, it's almost impossible to break your line on a hook set. Now, one thing that you're going to have to do is you're going to have to understand that you are fishing with a rope at that point, and you can and absolutely will break a rod and or the gears in your reel if you set the hook super hard with braid and you're hooked on something that is not immovable, like a stump, tree limb, something like that. You set the hook. If you're not fishing good gear, you could break your line or break your rod or your reel. If it were me, man, like I would recommend staying away from fishing all pure braid, and that's just my personal opinion. I fish 100% braid on my spinning rods, but I never just fish straight braid. It's braid to fluorocarbon leader. The deal is that fish can see braid better, in my opinion, especially mine, because I use stuff that looks like a highlighter. I like that moonshine collar from the Power Pro. I like something I can see in the wind or see on the top of the water. Braid's going to float more often than not, depending on what it is. So you're going to be getting less, depth out of things. It's going to take longer to sink. I personally only use braid for top water, my spinning rods, or if I am in super heavy cover. If I'm flipping and pitching in pads or, big, thick hydrilla, something I want to be able to get those things out of there, that's the only way that I'm using braid, straight braid. There's just a lot there.
I would second that. Rob, I love fishing straight braid on really thick mats and grass. Honestly, if it is so thick that you're not worried about fish being line shy, like if you're punching, think Gunnersville, throwing an ounce weight in, and honestly, you feel so much because there's no stretch in braid. Everything that happens on the bottom, you feel directly to your hand, which is really, really cool. When you can get away with it, it is a lot of fun. And one thing I would suggest, Rob, one way to save a lot of money. So mono's cheap. Braid is a little expensive. Fluoro is really expensive. So what I do is I probably set half of my reel, and this is a casting, with the mono, and then I tie the braid to the mono to basically take up the reel, especially when I'm just doing something short like flipping and pitching. And then I'll put a little bit more braid if I'm doing top water. But personally, I don't use any mono other than using it for backfilling, basically to take up room and save my braid. But
yep,
I
and
think
one thing that he brings up there is a very good point. If you're going to use straight braid on anything, make sure you put backer on the reel, just like he's talking about. Use some cheap mono reel, even if you don't want to do like he's talking about, reel like 40 yards of 40 feet, enough to cover the bottom surface of your spool with mono, and then spool your braid on. Because if you don't, what's going to happen is that eventually the braid is going to loosen up on the spool. No matter what you do, you can cast, do whatever you want to do. Eventually, you're going to set the hook on a fish. You're going to get a backlash. You're going to do something. It's going to cause the braid to loosen up on the spool, and that braid is going to free spool on the spool. So it's going to feel like your reel is broken or your drag is broken. You got to have something for that braid to bite into, or it will just sit there and spin on your spool and cause you some heartache. So put some cheap mono on the backer as backer. I personally, and this is weird, using Shimano reels, because literally, guys, there are some Shimano reels, especially like a Metanium that I have, that you could, if you have a half ounce weight on there, I can spool it. I can cast every ounce of line off of that rod, no doubt. But those little holes that are in the spool, most people will tie their braid or whatever on, or their mono or whatever onto that spool. Personally, I don't. And I've never got to the bottom where it's actually, caused me some, ill will, if you will. But I just put that line through one of those holes and reel it up on my spool. I'm not sure that's what those are there for, but that's what I use them for. If you spool your reel, if you cast it, all of your line off, all of your line's going to come off your reel. There's no backer there, but just reel it up. Again, just put a thin coating of that mono on your spool, because if you don't, it's going to eventually loosen up, and it's going to cause that braid to free spool around that. And you're going to have to strip all that line back off of there and reel it back on there tighter to make it work again. And it will save you some time if you just put some cheap mono on there.
Yeah, and that is a lot of heartache, because oftentimes you have to cut out some of the braid, and it sucks.
Yeah, man, I keep it. I go with the KISS method to keep it simple, stupid, or keep it stupid, simple. I use a uni to uni, my mono to braid, braid to fluoro. It works, easy to tie. There are much better knots on the planet. Like the FG knot is supposed to be like the end all be all, but it takes like 4 hands, an act of Congress, and 2 nuns to tie it for you. So uni to uni for me is where it's at. I just think it's really easy to tie. You could tie it in 30 seconds. It's not a huge knot. I have a lot of success with it. I use 4 wraps on both of my unis. Make sure you get that line wet with saliva or lake water before you pull it tight. Cut the tag ends.
Yeah, I use a double uni as well. Doesn't take long. It's easy to do. Once you do it a couple times, it makes it really easy. I used to use an Alberto as well. I'm not a fan of it. Honestly, the Alberto slipped on me multiple times. So what I did is probably what you're doing, Rob. Get on YouTube and watch a video on tying a double uni. It's super easy. Actually, my godfather, Hobie, who I'm supposed to go to St. Clair with, is the one that taught me how to do it. And I don't know, that kind of having that connection with it makes me like it even more. I know it seems like a silly thing, but it kind of jars that part of your brain that helps you remember.
I'm almost 100% positive I have a video on my YouTube channel about a Unity.
Yeah,
I would just hop on my channel and search it. I'm sure it's there. There's a lot of different knots on there. But anyway, JR, check the private chat if you haven't already.
Oh, yes. So I am very excited because this is something I'd kind of hoped for a long time, especially being on the channel for a while. I know this has always been Tyler's baby, but I have been, on here with Tyler for quite some time now. I don't have a clue how long at this point. We kind of just have fun and stay laid back, but thankfully, Shimano and G Loomis have agreed to sponsor me through Borders Sporting Goods. So big thanks to Brad and to the whole Shimano G Loomis team. I think Drew was a part of that, and I know that Tyler was. So I will be representing Shimano and G Loomis now, and of course Borders, who has supported us from day one every bit of the time. So I am pumped about that.
Yeah, man. Congratulations. It goes without saying that is a big deal. But the deal is that JR sponsorship is much like my sponsorship with them. And I want you to understand that what we talk about with G Loomis and Shimano is 100% organic. We don't get paid from G Loomis or Shimano. We're just getting a discount on their products. Now, it's not like the standard pro staff where you have, oh, we're getting 5% off to promote their products and put their carpet decal on our boat. It's not like that. We get a substantial discount to fish their products, but it's just the fact that, I've believed in Shimano and G Loomis for a very long time, and Shimano more than G Loomis, to be honest with you, because I fished Shimano back in the day because I couldn't afford G Loomis. This is back when Gary Loomis actually owned it. Shimano bought G Loomis like 20 plus years ago, and now Shimano or G Loomis is still handmade one at a time, practically in Woodland, Washington. You're getting a much better warranty with the G Loomis product, but you're paying for it. The most high, I can't say the most high end, but the highest end stuff that most people are going to fish in the Shimano side of things is going to be the Poison Adrena, which I absolutely love. You're looking at $375, $380 for that rod, which is an astronomical amount. But the upper end of Shimano or G Loomis, you're looking at $680 to $700. So there is a substantial difference there. But the Poison Adrena Bs are some of my favorite rods on the planet. If it were not for the warranty, and this is weird for me to say this, I said I would never say it, but it is probably true. If the warranty was better, I would fish probably 100% Poison Adrenas, but I would also own some of the Poison Ultimas. Now that's kind of pushing it. It's kind of absurd, to be honest with you, because they are $800. They're like $850 for a fishing rod. That is crazy. Could never afford it if it was not for the affiliation with G Loomis and Shimano. So I'm really thankful for that. They're all great rods. As JR mentioned, we're both kind of affiliated with the companies G Loomis and Shimano, which are now holding companies, not really holding companies, but they distribute for Jackal and Power Pro as well here in the United States. They don't own those two companies. They just distribute for them. But they, without Brad and Borders, and before that, it was a tackle box for me. That's how I got in the door with them. But it's folks like you guys going out there and buying products from Borders that help us out. And the deal is that I think JR talked to him a couple weeks ago. If you tell him that we sent you, or, that you heard about them on another line from On Another Line, I believe they will give you a 10% discount at the register. I've been told that. It's worth a shot.
Confirmed.
So 10% off. Yeah, man. And that's the deal. Like, so I bought my very first Shimano rod when I was probably 10 years old, and I didn't buy it. My dad bought it for me. I still remember it like it was yesterday. The tackle box used to be down in Ironton, right next to Big Lots in Ironton. And I went down there, and Greg Drown was a super nice guy then, and ended up selling me a Shimano FX. The FX is still a reel that's made today. You can buy them all day long, every day for $20 a piece, and they're great reels. They're forward drag. They have double handles on them. You get what you pay for. But I bought one of those things and had a great time fishing with that thing, and I destroyed it because I was a kid, and the reel was cheap. But since then, I will be able to tell you that I have fished mainly Shimano and G Loomis, but there was a small amount of time where I went crazy and got a little bit of, I don't know, I got a little crazy and started fishing Quantum Smoke for a while. I liked the idea of the micro guides there for a while. That was a very short stint, which I'm glad of. Had a few of them, sold them, went back to Shimano, landed the sponsorship gig, and I haven't looked back. Right now, I have like 37 rods in my boat, all Shimano G Loomis, and most of them are Poison Adrenas, NRX, or I guess they're IMX Pros, NRX Plus, Poison Adrenas, X Prize. Marty McFly. Well, don't leave me hanging. Who are you? I'm glad you're on here, man. Marty McFly.
I'm pumped that the kids these days know about Back to the Future, one of the greatest movies of all time.
That's right. Yep. Again, I've never tried this. I think it's kind of like saying, hey, Braden, I thought that was you, man. I was like, I bet that's Braden. Hey, man, thanks for joining in. So, by the way, I missed you at school today. Anywho,
he was fishing.
It could have been. Anywho, yeah. So anyway, it's been head on over to Borders. Tell them that you heard about it from On Another Line or that we sent you. And find Brad. If you just tell them that at the register, then be like, who the absolute heck is On Another Line? But find Brad. Tell him that we sent you. He'll hit you up with that 10% discount. Which, you know, you spend $1,000, that's $100.
There you go. Spend $1,000.
Oh man, Braden, I hate to hear that, buddy.
Oh, sorry, dude. It's going around.
Tony, do you get what online? I'm not picking
Probably
up what you
stuff from Borders.
Oh no, they don't have a website.
Online store, man.
Yeah, I know. They, to be honest with you, we're trying to do something a little different now. Borders is a gun store that has a fishing problem. We're trying to make it into a fishing store that has a gun problem. They are expanding, but they make a lot of their money in guns and ammo, and that's where 90%. I won't say 90. I'd say 60% of their floor space is guns, ammo, safes. 40% is fishing, but they have a lot of stuff packed in that 40%. What's up, Dino? How we doing, buddy?
Yeah, Tony, I wish you were up here to check it out. It's a really good store. You got a ton of Shimano and G Loomis stuff and tons of baits, and we're definitely trying to promote it and help Brad get more space in there so that we can get it up to the level that the tackle box used to be. The tackle box was huge, and it's one of the best tackle shops I'd ever been in, for sure. Man, I don't know if you guys follow them on Instagram, but there's a tackle shop called Tackle Addict at Sam Rayburn. It is unreal, man. That shop is like, the Toys R Us of tackle shops. It's down there in Zavala or Jasper, Texas.
Brad just texted me. Guns, safes, and ammunition. So this is all fishing, only fishing stuff. 10% discount.
Yes.
Only fishing. Thank you for that. Only fishing.
Yeah, we should have made that more obvious. Sorry about that, Brad.
Yeah, fishing stuff only. No guns, ammo, safe, definitely not. Brad's side of things, which is really, don't ask him. He just works there. Anything fishing, but again, I mentioned earlier, so we got a lot of more people on here, but I will tell you, I've caught more fish on a Zoom Verno jerk bait this year than any bait that I've caught anything on. Starting October of last year, I went out to Grayson. First off, how I came to know about the Zoom Verno was weird. Like, I'd heard about the Zoom Verno, but it was released in like January or February or maybe even March, probably March. It was probably the classic of 2024. I'm going to call a spade here, and the World Minnow from Shimano is not my favorite. I like the technology. It has flash boost technology. It has jet boost technology, which is flash boost is a small, thin piece of foil that is on springs that kind of flutters when the bait stops. I think that's a great deal. Jet boost technology allows you to cast these things a lot farther because it has a weight transfer system. Again, I think it's a great deal. In that 110 version, it's actually 115, the World Minnow, which is a little large for me. But there are other jerk baits on the planet that I would like to fish other than that World Minnow, one of them being the Jackal Re-Range 110. And obviously, we all know the Mega Bass Vision 110. So those are my favorites in that 110 era, looking at things. So I didn't fish a lot of Shimano jerk baits. They're good for what they are, but I just think that there are better ones on the market. And then I started hearing about this Zoom Verno, which was released in February or March of 2024. I heard about this thing in October, November of 24. I bought some at Borders, just randomly picked up the Macchiato collar and the Matte Pro Blue. Went out and absolutely tore a bone out of them at Grayson. And when I caught the fire out of them, I got like 35 bass on them in one day, and that's nuts for Grayson. So I started throwing it and started really liking it. Went to Lake Cumberland, freaking whacked them down there on it too. Broke 2 of them off at the same day on stripers. As a matter of fact, fishing the G Loomis Owners Tournament. Talked to Drew Sadler down there. He's like, hey, you still catch a fish on that Zoom Verno? I was like, I was until I lost the only 2 that I own today. So him being a nice guy and a Shimano rep hooked me up with a couple more out of his own tackle box. So I threw those. I have a Macchiato Zoom Verno 1 or 95 SP that looks like it has been through a civil war. I'm telling you, it is beat all to crap. I'm trying to destroy it. I can do it. Catch a fish on it every time I'm out. Again, I was down at Caney Creek, Louisiana. The water temperature was 75 degrees, and the jerkbait does not equal fish catches in normally, unless you're KVD, and that dude can catch them in a freaking mud hole with a broomstick. But 75-degree water temperature doesn't really, doesn't make a jerkbait bite happen. Well, I caught 4 bass on it down at Canyon Creek in 75-degree water temperature. I've caught fish from 48-degree, 50-degree water temperature to 75. I like the smaller version of it. It's 3 hooks, but it's still 95. So if you're looking at it, I guess it would be a little over 3 inches long, 25.4 millimeters in an inch, and it is a 95 millimeter long bait. So it's about 4 inches long. So with that being said, they do have them over at Borders. The Macchiato collar is limited. There's like 4, and I'm not joking. There's like 4. That's how hard they are to come by. You also have next collar. My favorite is the Matte Pro Blue. And then again, that OZ Shad is awesome. Go pick them up, guys. You will not regret it. I think they're fairly expensive, $18.99 a piece. Brad also just texted me, and we were talking about this the other day. The Shimano Owners Tournament is going to be in the fall. And then later on in the fall will be the G Loomis Tournament. Just to give you guys an idea of what that is, G Loomis, and so Drew Sadler is a representative of Shimano and G Loomis through Sportco Marketing. He works at Sportco. Sportco is the marketing firm that deals with Shimano and G Loomis here in the United States. So they do all the marketing and all the sales and all that stuff. So Drew is the sales rep for this area. He is over top of like Borders and T&T Outdoors, anywhere pretty much in northern Kentucky. He has his hands in there, and anything that you see there pretty much gets sold through him. But they like to do what I think is really cool and give back to folks like you and I that are users of their products. So anything, and don't quote me on this, I think it's anything there's like certain amount of dollars. So like I think the G Loomis is like, and if you spend anything, like if you buy like an IMX Pro or higher, or there's a certain, there's a dollar amount. You can't go out and buy like a Shimano Claris and jump in it, but I think it's like $100 rod or a reel of equal value or whatever, and you get entered into the tournament. It's normally always at Lake Cumberland, fairly simplistic, fairly centrally located. But you find a place like Borders, who is a participating dealer. You just have to have that receipt saying that you've bought that gear within this year, and you're entered into the tournament. It's 100% free. They pay out like $10,000+ in money and gear. They pay back to like 30th spot, and you have the opportunity to win some really cool gear happening in the fall. So if you're interested in doing that, it doesn't have to be through Borders. It could be from a Shimano, and we're only talking about Kentucky here because that's where Drew's at, but they have these all over the country. I'm pretty sure of it. Shimano Owners Tournament. Again, if you buy anything there, just talk to Brad. I'm sure he's got some order forms over there. It shows you what you need to buy or what you can get you access to the tournament. It's a really good deal. You just go, you draw numbers, and you go fishing for a day, and may the best men win when you come back. I think they paid out, it was like $3,500 plus 2 NRX Pluses, which is an extra $1,400 basically at that point. So you're making about $3,000 for a free tournament just for fishing stuff you like anyway.
Which you won one of those last time.
What is it now?
You won an NRX Plus last time, right?
Yeah, but not fishing. I paid $20
Yeah.
for a raffle ticket and won an NRX Plus.
Yeah, that's hilarious, man.
Yeah. I never won anything like that. And what was weird is that same week I'd won a pistol also. I won a Taurus 1911 for $24. So pretty good week.
No doubt. You should have played bingo that week.
No way. I lost all my mojo. But anyway, guys, we're about that 1 hour mark. You guys know we don't like to keep you on here as much as possible. Like to talk fishing and get off of the show. With that being said, again, this episode is brought to you by the fine folks at a lot of different places. Border Sporting Goods, obviously. But above and beyond that, Malone's Marine in Ironton, Ohio, take care of us a lot. Obviously, Shimano and G Loomis, we'll be talking about them a lot. Got JR hooked up with the Solar Bat Pro staff not too long ago. He has some really cool solar bats that I'm kind of jealous of that are like wraparound bats. They're pretty cool. You can see them in a picture that he just posted there of the Douglas tournament for the Casting for Kids. And then obviously Borders, but most and front and foremost here, Hannah Sublett. Hannah Sublett has done more for me this year than any of my sponsors ever in my lifetime. So go out there and buy some life insurance, health insurance from her from Ohio, West Virginia, Kentucky. Check her out at 740-456-7944. Again, health and life insurance only. She can shop around a lot of different companies, get you the best deal possible, and secure your future, if you will.
Yeah,
So definitely
Blue Rock makes great stuff, Rob. Definitely, man. I love their stuff. Actually, speaking of it again, not to be annoying, but Borders has recently got a ton of their stuff. Triple threat jig, the 1098 jig. They've got some of their spinner baits in. I noticed that last time I was in there, and I was like, that's really cool because, they're local guys that make a great product. So, of course, we want to.
Yes, sir. Old Jesse does great. The 1099 is amazing. That's cool, Rob. You don't have to order online anymore. Just head over to Borders, save yourself some shipping. But Jesse has an awesome thing going on. I really like it a lot. I like it a lot. So anyway, without further ado, go out and check out Borders. Tell Brad we sent you on fishing only. Might get that 10% discount, or we might charge you an extra 10% because you know us. Those guys, 110%.
Yeah.
Used to be $9.99, now it's $14.99 because you said that. Those guys are jokers. Anyway, with that being said, guys, you guys know the routine. If you can, get out there and lean on them. We'll see you next time. On another line, let's go!
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of On Another Line Live. We truly appreciate your support, and we couldn't do it without all the amazing folks at home watching week after week. A big thank you goes out to our sponsors who help make this show possible. Malone's Marine, Borders Sporting Goods, Solar Bat Sunglasses, Picasso Lures, Shimano, and Columbia Sportswear. Their partnership allows us to keep bringing you the content you love. We'll see you next time on Another Line. Until then, get out there and lean on them.